Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS Challengers League. We just finished our second series of the day, which was IMTC versus Cloud9C. I'm sorry, we can't move on, though, because we got to talk about that ending for a second. C9C just called to PvE. We're not team fighting. We're Nexus fighting, but that's solid decisive play, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I really was hoping that nobody would die on IMT before the game ended, so... Because it's not often that you have a situation where the Nexus explodes and all 10 members are still alive on the field, but we were really, really close. The way that Cloud9 was like, hey, they can't get back. They can't get back in time. We can cut them out.
That had my heart completely racing at the end there. I know you felt it as well, Mazel.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I didn't even expect the end to come through, but it is that decisiveness from them, even though... With that early lead, there were some troubles in that mid game. They were able to pull it back.
All right, well, let's take an update on how the day has been going so far because we're about to get into our third series. Our first match of the day, AoE, were able to take that 2-0 versus TL. Cloud9, you just witnessed that one, 2-0 victory. Almost a 1-1 at the end there. Immortals barely slipping by for the end of that. But now, moving on to our final game of the day, and that's going to be Golden Guardians Challengers versus Counter Logic Gaming Challengers. Now, bringing up Golden Guardians, this was a roster that was made with a sense of purpose and developing a lot of long-term talent. And as we get into this mid-season check-in, I think this talent is flourishing. It's a stable bot lane that's known for a good team fight, now expanding their playstyle, as we saw yesterday. Young has shown a lot of phenomenal growth and has stepped up as a playmaker, Mazel.
I think also just seeing this team come together in a lot of these early game moments has been really, really nice. I think we have seen a lot of strong mid to late games from them, but man, Rosethorn is just on another level with a lot of his pathing. I know we got to see that cool, bot lane wraparound gank from him last time around, but it has been an emphasis about how him and Young can kind of connect and where these resources go.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch them too as well, because currently we have to recognize that their schedule has not been the toughest. They still have yet to play CLG, Cloud9, Dignitas, Evil Geniuses, FlyQuest, and Wildcard, right? A lot of these are going to be some of their tougher teams, but they've also performed well against a lot of the teams that are currently sitting in the middle to like lower half of the standings, which gives us hope for how well that they can improve over the coming weeks. As you said, Eric, this is definitely a team that has a lot of younger pieces that are starting to come together, and also, like you said, I think that they've shown a lot of promise for how far they can potentially go this split.
Now, here's some fun stuff right here. What I saw from Young back in the day was he wasn't afraid to try and make a lot of flashy plays, and those plays were made on 100 Thieves Next, something we're going to bridge to a little bit later. You know, a lot of his development was refining this play to be a lot more consistent, and honestly, I think he's delivered on that quite a bit. He's had so many big moments. I remember that Akali play that Cubby was so hyped on that he needed to actually throw it on Twitter. It's great stuff, Mazel.
It really is. I think that's where he's coming into his own. Still some rough around the edges moments, but Young has had some of that experience. He was talking so much about how it is just kind of like that hyperbolic time chamber for him to have that a little bit of experience in LCS and try to bring that to the rest of the team. But Copy, on the other hand, another 100 Thieves Next alum here coming to bat in mid lane, it feels like.
Yeah, this is a team that is running it back. Same roster, new centerpiece, though, in Copy. And I've been loving watching CLG from the creative picks that we've seen from, like, Jenkins over in the top lane. Josh, I know you're excited about that with the Warwick. To one of the best farming bot lanes we've had in quite some time. We have quite the package here, Josh.
Yeah, and it's kind of been interesting to me that they have not had the same kind of early success as a lot of our other teams, right? With so many pieces coming together, we were kind of saying we were expecting them to do quite well, but they also have had, one of our more difficult schedules. They've also played against Wildcard. They've already played against Dignitas. They've also had to play against like 100 Thieves and Evil Geniuses and FlyQuest. And so the fact that they are kind of in the middle of the pack, I think, says a little bit about how much room this team still has left to grow, right? This is 100% a team where they have a lot of familiarity with most of their pieces, but it's all about coordinating both of their solo laners who both love going for flanks.
And I would just like to say, we got to see the 100 Thieves Next pickups from Copy there in that last set of clips. We get to see what he's done a little bit this year, but this man has been surrounded by greatness and promotions, right? But he hasn't gotten that call up yet. And I think that when you talk to him, he is hungry as ever especially having to have found a new team this offseason that you can see that he really wants to prove himself.
I know Copy's been on this road for a while. You were talking about that 2020 100 Thieves Next alumni. For those who don't know, 100 Thieves Next made one of the biggest impact in North American developmental. They destroyed North American amateur. So many first place finishes, and a lot of that was because of Copy and the performances he was able to bring and make that debut of 100 Thieves Next absolutely spectacular. So quite the showdown we have in the mid lane with 100 Thieves Next alumni. I'm going to leave the rest to you. Go ahead and take it to draft and take us to the Rift.
All right, we're going to be driving on into the Rift. We're going to park our camper. We're going to set up some s'more stations here, Joshi, as we're getting into our final series of the day. We've already set up this mid lane matchup. Feels like we're getting that a lot today as we had the Balulu and Menes matchup last time around. But Golden Guardians on the blue side will be banning away the Kassadin. We're already getting that mid lane focus from them. CLG Challengers, though, they ban away that Ashe.
It's also interesting to me, as you were talking about the differences between these two mid laners, because it is a situation where they were both playing for 100 Thieves Next, right? But Copy has not played an LCS game yet, as far as we know, as far as I can remember, and Young already has. And it's kind of interesting also to compare, Copy to the rest of the members of the 100 Thieves Next rosters. Yeah. Tenacity, Kenvi, Yan, and Poom, right? 4 of those guys,
literally
everyone else is already full-time LCS, and it is kind of criminal that Copy still has yet to get his opportunity. But going up against Young, he's got to be hungry, right? It's like, hey, this guy, literally younger than I am, looking for this opportunity. I want to try and prove that I have what it takes, and this is going to be one of those important steps to showcase that he deserves that spot.
Yeah, we do see that traditional Warwick ban towards Jenkins. It is literally banned against them every single time, it feels like now. The Karma, the Caitlyn, the Elise all taken off the board. Maokai was still there, so it's obvious pickup. Sejuani, obvious pickup. The Lucian actually finally making it through into another series. And, we've been skirting around it all day. It's like a little bit of flirting before Valentine's Day, but now we get the full-on bottom lane action in the Zeri Lulu versus, now potentially,
it's locked
Lucian
in.
Sona. And it is locked in.
There you go. That's not something you tend to see very often, right? It's Nami, 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 Nami. But this is kind of one of those champions where you're going to be giving up a lot of the laning power in exchange for a ton of scaling that's going to be coming through from the Sona. Sona is a late game monster in her own right with all the buffs that she gives across the entire team, but she needs time to do it. And so there's a bit of an interesting pairing coming out from Meech and Breeze. The Lucian is going to be there to kind of bridge the gap for the Sona, but we've already seen that even with the strength of the Nami in lane, Zeri and Lulu can kind of push them around. And so Array and Prismal, they now need to take control of this, or they will have a little bit of trouble later on as well.
So Copy gets his Zoe banned away. I was saying earlier when we were watching Balulu's, he was picking apart team fights on this Zoe, so they do not want to deal with that. The Scion, the Silas banned by CLG Challengers, so focus towards these solo lanes a lot more. So we'll see what this final ban is going to lean towards for Golden Guardians, because I think there still are a lot of very strong picks for Copy in the mid lane, but I do wonder if they want to try to get something a little bit more stable for Concept and Jenkins in the top side, because Jenkins, again, he's sometimes you get a lot of that late game factor, but people have been just lauding his laning phase now with how much kind of uniqueness he's bringing to the table. It is the Talia, so focus back towards mid lane and Copy.
Yeah, Jenkins was never one of the people, though, or the laners that was always looking for solo kills, but this is definitely one of the lanes where I think that they do have a lot of opportunity to do that, because Concept, has oftentimes struggled to really kind of show up on a lot of these tanks and make sure that the rest of his team is set up for success, and oftentimes requires a lot of help from Rosethorn in order to make that happen. Whereas Jenkins, very self-sufficient, and if you give Concept something like this, hey, that's going to be another big gauntlet. One of the other major counter picks we've been seeing to the Cassante, which has just been everywhere. It's been this Olaf, because you just stat check him back.
Yeah, and you can just take those fights, especially with the Ragnarok pop. That's going to be really big. So Golden Guardians definitely have a way of going about things here with themselves. They also get the Akali locked in for Young, so very much emphasis on what could happen in this mid lane as the final pick is all up to Copy.
Yeah, and something that you have to kind of look at is this team needs quite a bit of magic damage. I actually wonder if the Azir might be coming through here, or something like a Victor, even though they're both rough matchups into the Akali, simply because your only way to deal with Olaf is to, 1, create terrain, or 2... Oh, is he going to take... Okay.
It's the Swain back. Okay, we saw this earlier this weekend as well.
Yeah, okay, it's a decent lane matchup, but now the big question is you have a team that relies a lot on a couple of crowd control tools in order to really set up your team for these big team fights. And you know who does not care about crowd control?
Olaf!
Olaf does not care. And so this is going to be, if Concept has ever been set up for success, it is this game, right? He's got a situation where he interacts well with all the other champions. He out-drain tanks, copies Swain. He does a ton of damage. There's not a lot of damage that's going to be really put back into him. So as long as he is proactive with the usage of his Ragnarok, doesn't get knocked out of the fight from Jenkins, this can be a game where Concept can run amok.
I'm really interested. We got to see Concepts Garen the last time around. Maybe getting this Olaf out there a try into the Cassante is going to be something very, very key in the top lane. But I got to go back. We were putting a lot of focus on mid lane. No, it's always key in mid lane. It's how jungle interacts. And there is nothing that is more important to Rosethorn, it feels like, than to take down Kevi, to take down CLG, the org that felt like scorned him last year as well. And I think it's an interesting secondary kind of motion for Golden Guardians to have a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, while we're on the topic of having all these different, like, hey, these guys used to play together, hey, look at these parallels. Also, remember the coaches, too. You have Swiper and Juice, both coming over from Australia. Swiper, one of the star top laners that was there for a long time. And
he was playing against all of his friends this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an Oceanic reunion. There's actually a ton of Oceanic coaches. Like, if you're new to the scene, like, Swiper, Spawn, Juice, Soul Strikes on FlyQuest, and I'm sure we could talk about a whole lot that just aren't coming to mind right now. But so far, I mean, I really like this coming out from Golden Guardians. Rosethorn was a player when he was on CLG that we prided how well he pathed aggressively early, especially in relation to Dokla. If he can recreate that kind of success this game and help out Concept early on, that would really help accelerate the Golden Guardians game plan. And so this top side really needs to start looking for advantages, whereas the bottom side from Array and Prismal, they can try and do things, but they don't need to as long as the game is even.
Make sure you spam in chat who you think's gonna take this dub. GGC for Golden Guardians, CLGC for CLG. Get some that faith in there. We want to see a bit of a more back and forth, I feel like, than what we've seen a little bit today. We've had some very contested games, but I'm looking at this one to particularly highlight the mid lane matchup that will take a little bit of time to get into the game, but especially where, again, Rosethorn, Kevi go, how this kind of Concept versus Jenkins matchup goes. And something else that we really haven't got to talk about is
where's the fake
how Array and
Where's
Prismal
the CLG fans? They're definitely more popular.
They're not out there right now. They're not out there. They're invites for later. But another thing, and obviously we have so much focus on mid lane and jungle, but like bot lane is no slouch in this one. I feel like we've been so gifted today with a lot of these matchups in mid and bot lane that has just been so much eye candy for us.
I mean, I guess. They're eye candy for you.
Bro,
perhaps.
Meech and Breezy versus Array and Prismal.
Oh, the players. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Meech and Breezy, Array Prismal, Lost Zazel. We had Lynx and Skytech, a lot of great bot laners coming through, a lot of great duos also available. Now this should be another one, right? Prismal has been one of the interesting players for me to watch just because they are I mean, they are a role swap, right? They were an AD carry before, and Prismal was always known as kind of this crazy player, the guy who would look for these big plays, and if they went well, we'd call him a genius. If they went poorly, you know, we'd say like, oh, well, we'll just get him next time. And so this is going to be an opportunity for Array and Prismal to try and push around Meech and Breezy, who have also been having a fantastic split.
And again, just looking into what this Lucian Sona combo will end up being. As Breezy and Meech taking a very heavy trade. Prismal going to take some back. Oh, no, Breezy. Oh. Very, very close. Meech able to put some back, though. Yeah. Looks like Summoner Spells burned on both sides. Maybe even more enticing for Kevi and Rosethorn.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Sona in a while, the long and short of it is Sona's laning phase is trashed, guys. Like, it is so tough to actually make things happen with this character, especially at this level. And now Rosethorn, he's coming down to kind of look around. We saw a gank or a dive earlier from, I believe it was it Chad that did it? It was Winnie. It was Winnie.
Yeah, it was Winnie with the pull off here. We'll see, actually, though. Can get it off. Rosethorn actually not going to pull the trigger on that one. So early ideas on the table for Golden Guardians, but not going to have that execution just yet. And Rosethorn should just go to the top side of the map unless he wants to wait around for the Scuttle Crab.
Yeah. So this is going to be a small advantage going over to Kevy, right? If you look for a gank and don't find it, it's always going to be an advantage to your opponent who does.
Josh, tell me, maybe it's spectator or whatever. Do they see the puppies? Like, because it happened in the LPL the other night as well. Like, the physical champion body isn't in vision, but in the spectator, even with vision toggle, you still see the little puppies.
Somebody in Twitch chat is going to know better than I do. I think the answer is yes, but you don't just see you don't see them on like the mini map, right? It's
you have to be physically looking.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you were seeing the. What do you call it? People doing the Rift Herald over the wall. It's like you have to be looking at it to actually get any advantage there to see that they're doing it. It's part of why we were very impressed with their interactions. But so far, early on, it has been relatively even up in the top side, but Jenkins having to commit the teleport relatively early, having been pushed out a little bit, and is getting sustained against. A little bit tougher for Jenkins to maintain position. He needs to really fight to make sure that the wave does not crash and start pushing back towards Concept, because that would be a really dangerous position to be in if you're in a long lane against Olaf.
Kevy wrapping around. We'll get the control ward down and the regular ward to spot out Rosethorn starting his chickens. They will know that Kevy is hovering around mid lane, though. Young getting out of the potential grasp there. The never move from Copy. Back down towards bottom lane goes Kevy, though, as pressure has come in to the bottom lane of CLG.
Ooh.
And Concept picking a pretty heavy trade there. Again, we did just notice, though, that Jenkins had already back. Concept hasn't. We've seen this trade go Copy's way. Copy is out of mana now, though, but he's gotten this combo off a couple times, starting to stack up those crows.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely a pretty decent spot for Copy, right? He's still got the Corrupting Potion going, and he wants to try and take control. And that's something that we have been seeing in and out with Young, is after coming back from LCS, he was saying that he has nothing left to lose. He's already played at the highest level. It's all about how you can progress from here and get back.
Breezy taking a pretty heavy trade in that bottom side. Kevy looking for the dive onto Concept. He did just hit level 6. That should mean they back away.
Yeah, and with no wave, it does become very difficult. So Concept should be able to teleport back into lane here fairly shortly with a very small advantage, but with more importantly has the completed boots. Ready to try and chase down Jenkins if he ever starts landing a couple of those axes. But a little bit surprised. No blood just quite yet in the first 5 minutes of the game. The one thing we do have to note, Array and Prismal are doing a good job keeping Meech and Breezy from scaling into the game for free, doing quite a bit of damage and constantly keeping Meech and Breezy back. So it's difficult for anybody to really defend if they were to try and go into the jungle.
It's not the same. It's not like the Imperial Mandate build, right? For the Sona, you don't have that same like first item spike potential for the Lucian
usually
lane?
Not, right? It is usually a scaling champion. You rely on getting a lot of levels, which is kind of unusual as a support. Right, most of them are just like, yeah, I have all my abilities, so we're good. I hit level 3, hit level 6. All right, we are at full strength. But this is definitely a champion who really relies on having the synergies as they continue to level up. And now, Ray and Prismal are going to be zoning Meech and Breezy away. And the great thing is, after doing this dragon, they will be able to go back to the bottom lane, having missed basically no CS, unless Meech and Breezy cut them out.
And I love to see the spy out from Copy. Obviously, now bot lane needs to be a little bit more careful. But they were all looking at this play early on for Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
I think being on the same page is so important for this younger team.
Yeah. It also makes the game very easy to play. Like, when something we were talking about with Masu, right, is just when you are being aggressive, it is way easier to all be on the same page than when you're trying to be reactive. And that's something that I like about this Golden Guardians draft, is you have a lot of places where you can be the one playing to create space. You can be the one looking to start a lot of these fights. And by giving Rosethorn the opportunity to start them, that will definitely help them later on in the game. But we also set up, Lennon, that we were looking at Rosethorn as being this strong, aggressive early jungler. Hasn't had a whole lot of impact just quite yet. Only speculated on the dive once bottom lane, and other than that has been committed to farming.
But on the Maokai, I feel like you're okay with that to some extent. Culling actually being used in bottom side. I definitely think it fits more Rosethorn's shtick, though, for these early advantages. But still, we have seen how oppressive Maokai can be, especially in those objectives set up late. We'll see bottom lane, though. It's a 3v3 a Bruin, Joshi.
Ooh. Spots out Kevy there with the trinket. Good job coming out from Rosethorn. Does hit level 6 themselves. This should buy Meech and Breeze a little bit of space. Copy commits.
There is a 1v1 brewing in mid lane now. We got a couple brew pots going on. Oh, Young baiting out. Copy's never moved there, baiting that he was going to go back in.
Yeah. Never going to actually do that, right? Going underneath the turret's a little bit of a death sentence for Young, but they will end up just trading ultimates and both sides backing away. No objectives really to play for still. It is going to be the Rift Herald that is on the table, and it is a shorter cooldown for Young a little bit than Copy's ultimate, so they might find a small advantage in that regard, but still feels like these two teams are just kind of hanging out while we wait for both teams to get a couple items underneath their belt, and it is in fact Golden Guardians who will be starting up the Dragon first.
A Dragon.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What?
Couple plates. Going over to CLG, but it's a Rift Herald.
Did you see who got the solo play?
I did.
Yeah. That's investing. That is investment banking in the late game zone, my man.
I mean, that's what you kind of need to do here. I mean, you are definitely... I love that Meech is on the Lucian. A bit of a sore thumb in the composition. I know in the LPL, the late game Lucians are crazy, and I'm looking forward to see how Meech can kind of pilot this one later on. But it is definitely opting into the late game, opting into Copy, Breezy, the scaling aspects.
Oh, for sure. And I think one of my favorite things I've heard is a lot of coaches, I don't remember who said it first, but it has become a common saying that Lucian scales with skill later on into the game, right? The better you are at catching out your opponents, the better Lucian later in the game becomes. And so it is definitely a position where we can kind of look at Meech and see how well he tracks people down throughout a lot of these fights. But again, to kind of return, it doesn't feel as though Copy has kind of leveraged the advantage we might expect him to have over Young with the counter pick, right? This is definitely a spot where Copy is generally better known as somebody who is going for a lot of these flanks in upcoming fights. But I was also expecting him to have a bit more of a laning advantage here. Even though this isn't like the best matchup, it is still something that Copy opted into.
And I think we saw some of those visits early on, but it just hasn't been since then. And I think we're getting a lot more of that presence down bottom lane, though, as we do see that trade going down. But it is an interesting fact, but I think also it's something where teams are okay, both these teams are okay with looking back at this mid lane a little bit later on. It may be more so for Copy than Young, but Young is going to be no slouch, right?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, we will have to check back in on who's
Roa
actually
completed, though, early. I like it.
Because you have very different kinds of players that you're looking at, right? Like, in this mid-game, Concept and Young are kind of going to start taking off relatively soon if they can find their angles. Copy will also be very strong in the mid-game, and as will Meech. But then later, you're really looking at, like, Breezy, Array to kind of take over the game from there. Both teams just seem very comfortable scaling into the late game, which puts a lot more burden of execution kind of onto CLG, because it is going to be kind of on Meech to maintain his pressure later on in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the lack of range is not going to help you against an Olaf, an Akali, a Maokai, the Zeri as well, right? They have so much to deal with in terms of finding Meech into the damage profile of CLG. But we're looking back bottom lane as Copy was maybe heading down here for the Vision of Empire, but can't find it. Rift Herald still on the toe of Rosethorn, if he wants to use it down in bottom side here to get some gold for Ray and Prismal.
Yeah. Now this jungler really committing just quite yet, but Rosethorn moving around with Prismal.
What? Commit to the date, guys. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Get your little cute card. Get your little candy hearts. Make a little proposition. Say, we fighting or nah?
Yeah, Riverside. Oh, yes. Here we go, Rosethorn.
Oh, Meech get knocked back into the wild grow, or the at least the nature's grass. Meech, no. Meech goes down to Array. First blood for Golden Guardians.
There you go, Rosethorn, the first one to make his presence felt on the map. Going to be setting Golden Guardians up for this first dragon. And now Meech with no summoners is a very easy target for Array, Prismal, and Rosethorn to come back for very soon.
Oh my god, Breezy. Okay.
A little spooky.
Maybe still in a little trouble. But Golden Guardians looking at their second dragon. We got Breezy getting supportal combated. and Prismal takes him down. Here comes Copy, though. They are trying to get the demonic ascension for Copy in this game. They want to get him some kills, get him some resources, and Rosethorn gets all outed, but taken out by Copy. If he can find one more, that's a big influx of gold, and there it is.
Double kill coming out for Copy. Array also goes down to Jenkins on the other side. The two solo laners for CLG popping off again, turning around the dragon. And now CLG, I mean, the game remains relatively even because look at how much money Concept is going to be getting off this top side of the map. Yes, Jenkins gets a kill and an assist, but Concept's going to be matching right on back. I think the big thing that makes Jenkins kind of go for this play is the fact that the teleport had already been used by Concept.
Yeah.
There's no way that Olaf can join, and especially with the teleports not unleashed just quite yet. I mean, that fight didn't happen close enough to a turret for them to be worthwhile to teleport to.
We'll look back at that as well as what happened in bottom lane. Prismal versus Breezy a little bit more, but starting off with this Meech fight.
This is pretty textbook, right? I mean, Meech and Breezy just going too aggressive when they know that Maokai is in the area. It's just a bit of a macro mistake, not expecting Golden Guardians to be in comms, but hey, it turns out teams tend to do that at this level. And then the after thing, I do want to give Prismal a bit of a props for this, right, as they start looking for Breezy, because Prismal doesn't start hitting Breezy immediately as Breezy walks in and comes into range. He waits for Breezy to go as far as Breezy will go before starting to hit him. That gives time for your cooldowns to come back up, and also means that Breezy has farther to go to leave, giving the extra auto attack Prismal needs to actually get the kill.
You see just the continuation of this kind of capitalization on Golden Guardians overextending a little bit. They did get that dragon in the end, you saw in the picture-in-picture, but it was a really good collapse from CLG at the end of a play. We got to see the kind of separation, double kill to Copy, but then a kill under tower for Jenkins as well.
Yeah. So, small advantage going over to CLG Challengers at this point, and the mid lane turret should go down here. There's no actual
They only have 2 minions left. Oh, MVP are the minions. First tower goes to CLGC.
Yeah. And there we go. Concept on the other side of the map, though, still trying to find their way into the game. This is supposed to be when the Olaf is kind of at their strongest and doesn't necessarily get better from here, right? We've seen other Olafs, like Faisal, I think, is probably the most iconic of them, where he just took total control of the game. But that's because people were trying to fight him when he was on his power spike. So credit to CLG for kind of just avoiding him. Just like, yeah, Jenkins, you can, lose a couple plates. As long as you're able to participate in the rest of the game, it will be a small victory for the rest of the team.
Be another Rift Herald going the way of Golden Guardians. Another tower as well, as they will actually go up in towers. Vision of Empire coming in for Copy just to make sure. Gets the stack for himself, but now back on the forefront are Rosethorn and Golden Guardians, as they're going to get full mass resets back out. I do want to ask you a little bit more about that topside match. I know you talked about it a decent amount, but how does Concept kind of play the later parts of the game? Does he just try to find flanks on team fights? Does he just go straight through the team fights, or is he playing side lane?
He can't go straight up. You can't take a front to back as Olaf most of the time, just because it allows the other team too much opportunity to focus you. And at this level where the comms guarantee is Olaf, right? He's not gonna live. He's not gonna live. He doesn't have the HP to do that. And while Sona's ultimate doesn't work on Olaf, Sona's speed boost does work on the team, so they can run away. And as soon as Olaf's Ragnarok runs out, then you can start turning the fight. That's the thing that we'll be watching CLG to see if they can do that up against Concept. But at the same time, the rest of the team probably going to be struggling to keep up with Concept if he were to try and do some of those dives. And Prismal?
Let's have his back up there with Array, but back into this top side of the map goes CLG, leaning to the side with their 2-0 Swain in the top side for Copy. And again, Copy willing to kind of stretch his muscles, flex his muscles a little bit with these different picks we've seen. Obviously, Jenkins having a lot of that, maybe cooking it up with Copy though, but have seen the Zoe come through, now the Swain, and it's kind of a change up for mid lane where we did see Copy going for a lot of the traditional meta carries last time around.
All right, Raquel gets dropped, Concept on the side, getting a little bit of damage onto Jenkins.
Charge comes
Turret
through.
should go down.
Crash does get on
there,
to 2. They're going forward. Lightning Crash comes in. AoE going forward. Rosethorn gets the knockup. Concept gets the kill. And now we get the AoE from Array that's just popping in. Array taking a couple shots there. That's very dangerous.
Here's Copy on the backside. They're all low.
As Copy never move. Brings Rose Thor down. He's on a killing spree now. The Vision of Empire will not get the slow he needed. Young maybe gets taken out here. Goes over the wall. And Perfect Execution is out.
Honestly, really an escape from Golden Guardians to start moving towards the bottom side, knowing they're getting flanked by Copy. But that's also a moment. We'll take another look at that replay here shortly. Concept could have cleaned up this fight, potentially, right? That's definitely one of those spots where if you look at someone like Faisal, they know they can be a little bit more aggressive. And yeah, they get the mid lane turret, they get the crash on the second one, but that's one of the spots where we were really looking for Concept to kind of take off. Now we turn our attention away from the top side from Golden Guardians to the bottom side and look at Array and Prismal. But here, like, if Concept doesn't turn back towards the Rift Herald and just runs at Jenkins and Kevy, that's 2 kills for sure that CLG are supposed to pick up. But as soon as he starts going underneath the turret, starts getting really low, and they can reestablish battle lines, then the Olaf doesn't do quite as much. And it's really just the fact that Copy shows up on the other side. I am impressed that Young gets out of this alive, but it is, you know, a relatively small thing, like a 1 kill difference.
I want to look at this movement.
Wagon.
Oh no, Rosethorn.
Oh?
You can't go down again, my friend, as Prismal and Array right behind him. Got Jenkins collapsing as well. Glacial Prison. Nature's Grass comes back out. TP coming in from Young. Look at, oh my god, Concept taking a lot of damage there, but Young's on the back line here. They are separated. But Copy is with Demonic Ascension, is moving forward. Is Kevin also going on to Golden Guardians here? Golden Guardians, you got to pull out. You got to get out. Hit that escape button. But it ain't coming soon enough as Copy is sustaining the front line. Array will be gunning him down. He takes over the wall, but he gets killed anyways. And Meech, this late game mechanics are coming to fruition here. Triple kill for the ADC of CLG.
In Concept, the last man standing for Golden Guardians, but CLG getting the better of that fight, an extra kill coming through, and look how strong Copy is at this point. Like you called out, staying alive the entire time, and so CLG, I mean, we're looking at how well Array would be able to play that. Concept getting 2 kills, keeps himself in the conversation as well.
The TP used from Concept to get back on the map, get some priority around mid lane to push into this dragon. Golden Guardians on the precipice of a soul point and get back on the map. You look at that replay.
Yeah, Copy was waiting for his ult this entire time, and as soon as the counter dive comes through from Concept, it's Copy's ultimate that really becomes the important part of the fight. And he will flash forward just to keep people in range of the Rylai's, but at the same time, watch Array throughout the course of this fight. Even though I don't think he gets many, if any, kills, he's just able to kind of free hit for so much of this
AOE.
and do enough damage as it, like, the lightning crashes between different parts of the members. He's still able to take down the shutdown. He gets the big kill, and even though he dies to Meech, he buys enough space for his team. But as we go back to live, look at how Golden Guardians are trying to take another fight. And Olaf is flanking?
Might have a little bit of setup here. Concept is seen walking down. 6,000 health. Young trying to get another flank. It's like a weird pincer move. We're getting formed here. Nature's Grass coming out, though. They'll try to get the flank. Young on the back. Concept on the side. We got AoE from Array. CLG are starting to run away. They have broken their lines, and Young will clean up a kill. Copy trying to sustain, but the health bars are too damn big. A double kill goes over to Concept.
And what a gorgeous setup coming out from Golden Guardians. They'll get themselves a 3rd dragon on their way to a Cloud Soul. And God, Mazel, that is one of the best souls you could ask for from Golden Guardians. Every single one of their players will benefit from it. And Concept, like you called out, has actually suddenly showed up in the fights that we weren't
pinging
really
onto
looking
Baron. I mean, they're taking a lot of poke from Copy here. Those eyes of the Empire are definitely shining onto Golden Guardians. Dragon is secured by Concept on the side. Baron not started here. Is Copy able to dissuade any of that crazy movement, but still Golden Guardians finding a lot on the map.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Concept has been able to participate in these fights has been great. Look at this. This is textbook. This is something that CLG have done to so many other teams. Young and Concept on opposite sides, forcing CLG to split their front line, and Young is able to find his way in. That's why these flanks work out so well. This is something that the Golden Guardians have absolutely blown open this game with, is the fact that they are forcing CLG to split up. They are not allowing the backline to take these front to backs, which we said was going to be so hard winning for them.
And I love to see the confidence also built up from Array and Prismal playing in these team fights. I mean, we put so much emphasis on Young, and Young has been performing. I mean, that's double flank there, and on the backline to execute with the perfect execution was so good. But gotta give those props to Array and Prismal, staying sustained in these fights as well. So Golden Guardians really performing on the day, and as you said, they kind of set themselves up in a nice position for a late game scaling team comp, and they're going for it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I was pretty ready to say, like, Concept is going to take a backseat in this game, but having picked up 5 kills in the last couple of fights, like, suddenly, major issue for them to deal with. Again, Faisal has been the most prominent ult-up, but Concept is now looking for the opportunity to keep that name in the list. And look at the level difference, right? Remember when we were looking at Concept staying in lane while Jenkins teleported out? It is now kind of ballooning into a 2-level difference between Concept and Jenkins. And Jenkins is not necessarily known for his side laning ability later on in the game. He's known for being able to find flanks himself. That's why we said Coffee and Jenkins.
And a Rose Storm, but there's
they go. Here's the flank
back tool. You got that flank being TP'd in. Double TP now from in both sides at least. You still got the front to back being cullinged by Golden Guardians, but here comes Young back into the fight, back on a Copy. He wants to get that damage down, but he can't find it. Prismal almost dies to Meech. Meech out of mana, though. You've got to be very cognizant of that as Prismal dodging out of the eyes of Empire.
Yeah, and everybody going to be backing away. Every ultimate used except for Breezy's. And a couple of these characters don't get to do much if they don't have any ultimate at all, right? The Swain, shadow of his former self. And so, CLG, they're starting to move over. They're retaking all this vision control. And Young, are we playing another game? You know where he is.
See, he's on the back end here. Snuck out of the backside here. Rosethorn coming over here as well. Maybe they're just trying to play a game. I think CLG, with the lack of info, realized something could be going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, CLG not able to find a real team fight win, and now Golden Guardians start this one up. Concept does have the teleport. They're not hitting the ward.
To start this up. Oh my god. But yeah, but Copy has the Visions of Empire.
It's a long cooldown. Copy coming over. Okay. I'm surprised. Copy doesn't do anything when he doesn't have his ultimate. I think you stick that. But Golden Guardians, they now have Concept on the other side of the map, looking to create a little bit more space. Remember, in about a minute and a half, the Cloud Soul could potentially spawn. It could be coming in for Golden Guardians. If you give the movement speed to Maokai, to Olaf, to Zeri, suddenly it's so much easier for them to ignore the Rylai's that Copy's already built. And 2, you can just run people down, right? It gives you so much more maneuverability. It's already all skill shots they have to hit onto Zeri to get any crowd control.
And we're also seeing it time out really well here. Array is like right on the cusp of getting this IE, the 3rd item completion for the Zeri. Big damage coming out in team fights after that, and we're still waiting on this for CLG. A contest coming out. Young in the side against Coffee. Will not get hit by the Never move. Heavy is here, waiting in the wings. All 5 members of CLG grouped together, and this is a flipperino.
Heavy is opting to a suicide mission because look at this setup once again from Young and Concept.
They're splitting the front line. Double flanks. Oh, they found it. That Nature's Grasp was huge. Baron taken. Clean stuff for Goldie, but they want to take the fight as well. Copy pops him out of contention. Look at the back line. Look at the back line. He's running at them menacingly, and Young slices through the middle. It's evisceration station for CLG as Golden Guardians. They take the Baron. They take everything, including CLG's base.
Oh my god, CLG are getting absolutely dismantled by this composition coming out from Golden Guardians and Concept. I'm sorry, I did you dirty. You are absolutely popping off, finding these flanks and allowing you and Young to do so much. They're trying to end the game now.
We wanted the mid lane smackdown. We wanted to see what Rosethorn had to say against Kevy. Well, it was a holistic team difference, and Golden Guardians looking to put the final touches on this first game for them. They need to take down the Nexus Tower here. They find Kevy, and that'll be the icing on the cake for Rosethorn, taking down his replacement jungler, and Golden Guardians win game number 1.
What a great game coming out from Golden Guardians, right? It's not just about the champions that you do, it's the way that you actually pilot them. They constantly find every single one of these ways into the backline. They constantly rip apart the front-to-back composition that CLG had drafted. And honestly, it's a great look coming out from Golden Guardians, right? Young really showcasing that maybe he did deserve that LCS spot.
Hey, he is popping off here, and Rostam right alongside him. They were a little bit more quiet at this one for sure, with all those kills going over to Concept at the top side. Love to see Concept going back to some of these more aggressive picks that we used to know him for. He wasn't always just a tank player. We'll see what happens, though, for game number 2, as a bounce back is inevitable from CLG Challengers, not Faith. We'll be right back after a short little break with Desrex and a halftime show.